And have we been lied to or what? We're going to discuss a little bit of yesterday and the situation with how it's funny how the No Kings protest means no kings, but the people that supported it were people who literally have a complex of being kings over you. They've been in power for 35, 40, 50 years. But we'll talk a little bit about that. But more than that, today we're going to talk about how we've been lied to about our seeds, farming, about our food. We're also going to talk about how we see the shutdown actually benefiting us. 50% of IRS has been laid off or fired. 50% of Department of Education has been laid off or fired. We are seeing really what we voted for. And again, you have the media, you have the Democrats, you even have the rhinos. They're all saying, this is wrong. We need all these people back. Do we now? Also, we've been lied to. You know, there was a terror attack in '93 in New York on the World Trade Centers before 2001. See, people don't realize this. Now, that's one of the biggest supporters of Zohran Mamdani. We're seeing the groups of Muslim Brotherhood getting behind a lot of these candidates. Are we seeing Islam move more in America? We need to pay attention. And lastly, we've been lied to about money. Isn't it amazing that the biggest banks and the biggest providers are buying gold? The biggest countries are buying gold. And Bitcoin seems to be embraced by all the people that we said were doing evil across the world for the last 10 to 15 years. And we're just trying to support it still. It's unbelievable how quickly we forget who our friends and who our enemies are. We're going to discuss a lot of this today and dive into some crazy stories. Crazy, crazy stories. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Thank you so very much for being here today. We're going to be discussing a whole lot of things, but ultimately, it's just the fact that we have been deceived. And it's sad to say, but it's true. One thing I've realized in my life, when you're not seeking wisdom and seeking things all the time to make our lives better, we tend to fall by the wayside and trust just about anybody. That may be religion, that may be my boss, that may be, all kinds of things. TV, propaganda, I mean, there's all kind of things that if we put our guard down, then we tend to trust people that we probably shouldn't. Well, today that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. First, let's talk about yesterday, the No Kings protest. Now, there was a lot of people at these events. I'm not disregarding that. Sadly, the people that were there for a certain amount of time, then they kind of dispersed and it kind of got little crowds. It had a purpose. But the purpose was funny because all these people like Nancy Pelosi, Bernie Sanders, all those people were breaking crowns and calling Trump a king. Now, Trump has been president for 4.5 years, 4 years before, now close to 9 months, almost a year. So say 5 years. Nancy Pelosi broke a crown, Bernie Sanders broke a crown. They both flew to private events on private planes with private security. And Bernie Sanders has been in office for over 40 years. Nancy Pelosi's around 37, 38 years. Chuck Schumer, same way. So they're telling you you don't need kings. However, they have built their own kingdoms and made loads of money while doing it. But telling you and lying to you and deceiving you that Trump is the bad guy. Now, we voted for Trump to basically, to help us break down the bureaucracy. Well, because of the shutdown, there's two stories that said that the Department of Education has lost 50% of their workforce. Also, the IRS is having to furlough or lay off 50% of their workforce. Now, I don't know about you, but that's two things we voted for, correct? Remember, a long time ago, just a year ago, we talked about Vivek and Elon and Trump working together to get rid of some of these bureaucratic classes. USAID was one of those, and now it's gone. We were ending these forever wars. Now we're not in forever wars. Now we're helping Americans close the border, and now we're seeing 50% of IRS, 50% of Department of Education gone. This is what we voted for. This has nothing to do with calling Trump a king. This actually has to do with what the American people, the 77 million people that voted for Trump, wanted. So what blows my mind is that the things that we voted for, majority and electoral college, is getting exactly what they wanted. But here's the problem. Here is the whole problem. We've been so deceived to think that it is so wrong. There was a study done and a story done that said that there was several people that are now protesting that the government's not paying their bills, such as Section 8. So Section 8, you know, if you know anything about Section 8, basically that is for government intervention to give money towards rent payments. So a lot of people that live in government housing or apartment buildings that government subsidizes is called Section 8 housing. A lot of rental landlords want Section 8 rentals because that means the government subsidizes them, and that means that people will not go long without rent. Well, you know, part of this is government's intervention in our life is not good. The more we allow government intervention in our life, the more that we rely on DC to fix all our problems. Prime example. So there was someone that came out that said, a landlord, he said, I don't know if my tenants are going to be able to pay me, and I don't know if I'm going to go belly up because the government, I'm a Section 8 property, and so everybody uses Section 8 to pay me. So sadly, this guy's a landlord making money off your tax dollars to pay for people that are living there free of charge. That's what that means. So this guy's complaining that Trump is hurting him because ultimately the shutdown in Washington is causing for Section 8 payments to not be rendered for November and December unless Congress acts. Now, to be honest with you, the shutdown will stop sooner than later, and everything will go back to status quo of us getting wasted and our money getting wasted and us getting lied to more and more. But the crazy thing is that, did you see how we've changed? Remember when Kennedy, who was a Democrat, said, what could we do for our country? It's not what our country could do for you, it's what you could do for your country. Boy, that has changed, hasn't it? Now it's us, look at us, we are so spoiled that we want the government to do everything for us, and when they don't, we go to the streets and protest. So you see how we've been so deceived over so long? There's never been a time where government should be taking care of us. Now, sadly, they shouldn't be taxing us so much, and that's why we've built this 6-cycle carousel where we've been so taxed that we've been put in prison. So therefore, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid is a have-to for us in civilization, because we believe that, well, that's normal protocol now. See, we've been so deceived to think that government is supposed to take our money and then supposed to give it back to us in stipends to where we live impoverished basically on the government for the rest of our life. Have you ever met anyone on Social Security that says, I am rich? Social Security is making me loaded. I'm so glad that I give to Social Security when I was 20 years old, because now I'm loaded. No one's ever said that, have they? I don't think that we want to admit to it, but our bureaucratic class and our government has harmed its own people by taking more money that they shouldn't have been taking and ultimately giving it back to us in stipends to say that they're taking care of us. It's amazing to me that we've allowed for government to do this to us, but we have. Instead of going to the streets and wanting freedom and liberty, they go to the streets yesterday in proclamation of more government intersection in their life. They want more government involvement because that's what they push. The biggest proponents and supporters of yesterday's event was the Democrat Socialists of America, the Communist Movement of America. That was two of the biggest, givers of this protest. Also, Muslim Brotherhood. So it's amazing how we see people wanting to stand with that, and it shows how deceived we really are. Now, that's one thing. What about our farm? What about our seeds? What about our money? We're going to be talking about all that. Let's go to the farm right quick. Because remember, you may not be a farmer like me, or you may not be a farmer like some of these conventional farms. I want you to listen to what this farmer said. Because remember, without the farm, you don't eat. I want you to listen to what was just said. It says, this should be one of the most important things that we can talk about today. It says, the American farmer says he's tested his soil, and it has 5 times the amount of aluminum that it should. The GMO seeds grow fine, he said, but when we tried to plant heirloom seeds around this monocrop, nothing grew. It was dead. Bill Gates is creating GMO seeds that only thrive in soils that have heavy sprays and heavy chemicals in them, because that's what they've modified them to be. This monocrop mentality and this single-use farms are becoming the death of our food. Now, you don't believe that they have to say so. What if you said, well, Colby, why don't you just let the farmers grow their own seeds and provide for them like we used to do back in years prior, that farmers grew their own crops, they sold their crops, then they come back and replanted their crops that they had. Here's why. Farmer is spreading awareness. This is from Wall Street Apes. It says, farmer can also be sued if they try to plant their own seeds. The seed companies are essentially bullying the farmer into buying their seed, which is another reason why your food is becoming so expensive. People are not allowed to grow their own food especially if they're big farmers, to provide for America. They have to grow the seed that has been provided from the co-ops. It's the same situation in the cattle industry. You cannot produce a dairy farm without excessive amounts of permits and sell to the public in most states. You have to sell to co-ops. Co-ops then set the price, and then they make all the money along with the market, and it goes forth. The farmer is the one that gets ripped to pieces. And their equipment, all that stuff is regulated. Everything has been regulated by the government to hurt the farm. The seed provider, same way. There's only just 5 seed providers, and they said mostly are owned by 2 different big companies that provide the seeds. And if you don't grow their modified crop, you can be fined and then closed down to where you cannot grow food for America. So the seed companies actually come onto your property, check your plants. If they see any trace of someone else's genetics, you can be fined. This happens with chickens. Did you know if you work for a chicken farm, or you're a grower for a big chicken operation, or you work for Tyson, Cargill, or Sanderson Farms, or any of these big players, that they will not allow you to have chickens in your own yard, your personal chickens? They will not let you grow eggs because they believe that you're tainting their business. And actually that's not the case at all. It's just their stuff is so modified that they have one way of use, and you are supposed to grow that. And if you try to emulate anything else or try to do something on your own, your licenses, your regulations, you'll be fined. So the problem is not, can we grow food? The problem is, we've seen people like Bill Gates, and we've seen people like these big companies overtake agriculture. And when all of a sudden we've been lied to about our government and about them giving money to us, when we've been lied to about our seeds and our food, then what is next? Well, let's talk about it. Bitcoin. Now, before we talk about Bitcoin and get into some of the gold, today's sponsor is US Gold Mining. We've been talking about this company for a long time now. If you remember, I shared this company about a year ago, and their value has doubled. I mean, you could have made a lot of money by investing in gold then. Look at gold's pricing. Or from today's sponsor. What's happening in the world today can only be described as one word: unprecedented. We're seeing record prices of gold around 4,000 an ounce, actually going up. There are some banks saying it's going to go as high as 5,000 and 6,000 an ounce. Billionaire hedge fund manager Ray Dalio even stated that we're almost in the time of the 1970s, where he is encouraging people to buy more gold. Billionaire fund manager and bond guru Jeff Gundlach says that even if your allocation is 25% of gold, that's not excessive at all. The Trump administration has taken extreme measures even at the Fed, and recently taking up significant equity positions in mining companies. This is a seismic shift in gold, in silver, and even copper. And to be honest with you, it's at all-time record highs. For this new bull market, I'm profiling a gold and copper exploration and development opportunity right here on the US soil. The sponsor of today's video is US Gold Mining Inc. It's the Whistler project in Alaska. We've actually talked about this before, but wait till you hear this. This contains the closest large undeveloped gold and copper exploration project to the main population of Anchorage. The tailwinds in Washington is going opposite of what it's done for the last 30 years. To where now they're embracing gold and copper exploration. They're being productive and constructive towards exploration and mining. And of course, that is now contributing to the overwhelming rally in mining stocks. What transpired earlier this month is one of the most pivotal moments in history when it comes to mining. And of course in Alaska. In my view, when you couple this with the record gold prices and around $5 a pound for copper prices, it has a potential for a major shift in Alaska's resource sector. In early October, President Donald Trump, along with Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, announced that their administration is acting upon previous executive orders regarding mineral resource opportunities in Alaska. They gave approval to the Amble Road project, a proposed 211-mile road intended to connect the remote Ambler mining district to the Dalton Highway. This road is seen as a key piece of infrastructure and unlocks mineral resources in northern Alaska. The importance of this is market signal. Here's why I think you should be looking at US Gold Mining Inc., which is trading on the NASDAQ, with their Whistler Gold Copper project in central Alaska. Alaska is clearly important to the Trump administration. Trump issued an executive order on day one of his presidency called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential, just on day one. Now, we talked about this several times, and now you're seeing this come to fruition. When we started talking about these mining operations, gold wasn't at an all-time high. Now it's literally at an all-time high. I mean, almost double what it was when we first started talking about the value of gold exploration and what Trump is doing. The Trump administration also issued a second executive order called Immediate Measures to Increase American Mineral Production. The executive order directs government agencies to immediately action to facilitate domestic mineral productions and maximize extent possible, which is including gold and copper. In addition to federal support at the state level could not be stronger. Alaska's Governor Mike Dunleavy is a strong proponent of economic growth and infrastructure in support of mining in his state. He has personally visited the Whistler Project himself. Along with the support the project has for 2025, it's been visited by U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski and the U.S. Representative Nick Bakish. The Whistler Project mineral resource estimate comprises of 294 tons of 0.68 grams per ton gold equivalent for 6.48 million ounces gold equivalent in indicated categories, plus 198 million tons at 0.65 grams per ton gold equivalent for 4.16 million ounces of gold equivalent inferred. You should review U.S. Gold Mining's latest annual report for information on the company and the project and the mineral resources estimate. These are available under U.S. Gold Mining's profile at www.sec.gov. Another reason why this is a very interesting project, in my view, is the company's ownership structure. 78% of outstanding shares are held by its parent company. One shareholder controls 78% of the shares. Another 4.5% is held under management and insiders. Over 80% of shares are tightly held. A pivotal catalyst is now underway, which is why, between the following aspects of this company and this opportunity, I'm telling you to look at U.S. Gold Mining, symbol USGO on the NASDAQ. Historic Fed rate cuts cycle commenced. Gold is at an all-time high. And number 3, Trump's administration has issued 2 executive orders on Alaska and the state to move forward with this planned road system. The West Suitna Access Project that will connect the Whistler Project directly to Anchorage. And now one of the company's most important moments since inception is in the works. U.S. Gold Mining has begun the process of the Initial Economic Assessment, also known as the PEA, which stands for the Preliminary Economic Assessment. This study is a preliminary review of economic factors that its timing could not be better. With gold at 4,000 an ounce and copper around $5 a pound, do your own extensive research into this company, U.S. Gold Mining Inc. Make sure you look at the annual report at the SEC for research on this opportunity. Check them out. Check out the links below and do your research. My personal opinion, it's a great company. Now, along with that, let's talk about what I'm saying when it comes to Bitcoin and why it's one of the biggest lies there is. I want you to listen to what was just shared. Simple fact that central banks are accumulating wealth. They're trying their hardest to find wealth. And you guess what they're putting their wealth in? Gold. China just bought more gold. Poland just bought more gold. Some of the biggest banks that are building assets are buying gold. Now, why do you hear the push from BlackRock, our governments, and also some of the big major banks that's tied to the wealth? Why do you think they're pushing crypto so much? Because if they can get you on the digital platform, then they control you lock, stock, and barrel. Did you know that right now the dollar, even though they tell you how bad it's doing, did you know the dollar is actually doing better versus all world currencies other than gold right now? Did you know that? Did you know that the dollar is at the strongest it's been over the past 5 years? Did you know that? Now, comparable to where it was back in 1950, of course it's dropped value. We got off the gold standards in the 70s. So since the 70s, the dollar has failed. You're exactly right. Inflation has caused the dollar to fail. You're exactly right. We have spent way too much money in debt. You're exactly right. But you know who we need to blame for that? That's not the dollar's fault. That's our government's fault. So when you see like the Fed telling you to buy crypto, but then they're not buying crypto, they're buying gold, what does that tell you? They know what true wealth is. I love what someone shared the other day. They said that in every time in history when empires were building and growing, gold, food, and borrowable assets became what they put their wealth in. When these same empires started trying to find ways to mitigate their use of gold, they started making tokens and some other form of currency such as paper. And they all started failing because the paper was not backed by the gold. They overprinted. They overspent. They inflated their money. We're seeing this across the world right now. The Turkish dollar, I mean, it's literally faltering like crazy. The euro, struggling. That's why they're trying to put it based on a digital currency and a stable coin, because they want to get you hooked on it, and therefore you have to back it because you have no other means necessary being able to use it. Why do you think so many people are pushing towards crypto? Why all of a sudden is BlackRock, who is Larry Fink, who is the leader of the wealth now, who we said we are completely against, now lock, stock, and barrel with crypto and telling you, if you don't get in now, you're going to miss out? Well, he's probably right. You're going to miss out. It's going to skyrocket. You know why? Because they want everybody to go into it. You know, it's like if they said free food, free food, free food, and you got over there and you're running, you get it, and a lot of people get the free food, and all of a sudden there's no more free food, and they're like, well, there's nothing left. You were just, you know, left without nothing. So everybody's going to run to Bitcoin and crypto because they're going to believe this is how you get filthy rich. I see all these people with Lamborghinis and all these people getting filthy rich, these 20-year-olds playing crypto. We need to get rich. And everybody's going to go to it, and then all of a sudden, one big whale. Now, whales mean they have a big proportionate size of ownership. Well, some of the biggest whales in crypto is some of the biggest stock hedge fund managers, BlackRock, world governments, America, and several other global entities. At any point in time, if they decide to sink it, they can sink it. What if all of a sudden you put all your wealth in it and then it went down by half? You would have to have government intervention in your life, huh? Kind of like what they're talking about with Section 8 and food stamps and Medicare for all. You see how it works? You've been lied to tell you that this fake intangible asset that is based on mining of energy grids, that there's not one grid that's actually strong other than China's grid, but I digress. They're telling you that we have to have some kind of way of mining energy to base our money speculative on digitized forms of a coin that's not real, that you can never tangibly hold, and that there's only a certain amount of it. Now, that was a lot of words spoke to you. That's how important, that's how people explain Bitcoin. You'll say, well, what is Bitcoin? Well, it's a digitized currency. It's like liquid gold. It is perfect. Well, what is it? Well, it's a digital money. Well, what is digital money? Well, it's on the blockchain. You can see what everybody's spending. It's a parallel society. Well, how is it parallel if BlackRock, the world governments, are telling you to buy into it? You see how that works? You know the reason I tell you to buy gold and silver? And here's the biggest, this is what I always hear. Well, you can't eat gold and silver. Well, I hope you're not eating Bitcoin and cash either. But if you look back in times, biblical times, historical times, any form of an empire, gold and silver lasted. Now, will it last like the Bible says in the end days? Nope. But why do you think they're moving so far away from it right now? Is because it's a control element, and the control element is what? Putting you on a full digitized form. Let's listen to what two big of the world government players that's part of the wealth, that's some of Larry Fink's best friends, by the way, and they're telling you to buy in Bitcoin. Both of these people are telling you to buy in Bitcoin. Let's go to them. First, let's talk about what on the World Economic Forum stage that Pfizer's CEO just said about digitizing and making sure the world has a form of digital ID, and that means digital money too. Listen to this, because he's on the medical side, the pharma side. Albert Bourla announces that arrival of the first electronic pill comes, and it's going to have a biological chip that sends a signal to alert authorities when it's been taken. Images and applications will be in compliance. With digital ID and digital currencies, government will now be able to exclude you from society unless you have taken certain pills and certain aspirations of what they deem as mandatory. This is what this means. If you don't buy in their system, then you're an outcast. What did I just say about the farmer's seed and the farmer's chickens and the farmer's milk? If the farmer does not buy into those systems, you're an outcast. You can't grow food, or you'll be overregulated. Well, let's go to our good friend Bill Gates here. Bill Gates praises India's digital public infrastructure, which integrates biometric digital ID, bank accounts, and payment systems as foundational for tracking people's health records, monitoring farmers, and solving all climate problems, along with absolute control of each person's money. They get to control it by the blink of their eye. They get to control it by the chips in their hands. They get to control it by their phone. But no one tells you that all of it's based on speculation and control of what the governments are pushing. Why are all these governments wanting you on this system? It's not for freedom and liberty, would you think? It's amazing to me. Now, here's another big proponent of it. You know our good friend Mamdani in New York City. His goal, his push is to take away privatization of land. He believes that everybody should be buying into the government system and that government will provide the food, the housing, and supplies along with Medicare for all. The same person that's telling you right now that Muslims deserve a place, mosques deserve visits, and guess what? He was just interviewed and just seen with this supporter. Do you know who the guy on the your left, my right, the guy on the white is? Well, he's the 1993 terror bomber of the World Trade Center. He was a conspirator of that, by the way. But he's telling you, just like Albert Bourla from Pfizer, just like Bill Gates, just like Larry Fink, just like every government in the world, that digital forms of currency such as crypto and Bitcoin is the way of the future. Because guess what? If you get on those things, everything you have and your wealth will be generated in digitized forms. And just like that, with a grid collapse or a reset, you will own nothing. I don't know if you'll be happy, but they'll provide everything for you. How do they provide everything for you? Because they overtax the rest of us. And then they overregulate the rest of us. Like we were talking about the farmer, then there's no freedom. It's all control. Crypto is another form of control. You people don't see it yet. But it is not the way of the future. Well, excuse me. It is the way of the future. It's just not the way of freedom. It's the way of control. I'm going to end with this, and this is from Steve Bannon. And again, Steve Bannon is not some just amazing wise person, but he is someone who believes in freedom on the conservative side. Actually, is a supporter of Trump, but, you know, has some different ideas and things that sometimes I don't agree with. But I want you to listen to what he said, because I do think he made a point that is true. He said, the U.S. is heading towards civil war. We look at everything that's been indicative out there. He says all the players indicate this is coming. These are unbridgeable divides right now, and they're getting deeper. He said the Democrat Party is getting more and more radical. He said whether you want to spend trillions of dollars on healthcare or not, they're going to make you, and they're going to demand that you follow their guidance. He said whether we're demanding a census or changes in congressional races, everything is going to be built upon what the shutdown brings, how radical each side gets, and how the divide is growing deeper. Go back to what all the big world governments said. Sometimes when chaos ensues, they get their way. What we see with yesterday and all these protests and all these events and everybody moving to certain forms, it allows them to do their will on the American people, i.e. look at 2020. Now, if you have leaders who want to control you, like I just read from Pharma, Bourla, which is over Pfizer, Bill Gates, the farm and seed companies, the congressmen that are saying no kings, but they've all been in power for 35 to 45 years and become uber rich millionaires. Guys, we've been lied to think that we can see freedom. No, actually we're pushing for freedom through this administration, and you see the pushback from it. From Department of Education to all these other cuts and shutdowns, this is exactly what we wanted. But the other side is pushing harder and harder to make our government bigger. What is the answer? Well, the answer is freedom, independence, sustainable, growing. If you're depending on all these farmers to grow your food, they're all modified foods. Is that really what we want in our diet? Or do you want to go back to the earth and start growing kitchen gardens and big heirloom gardens? You better realize the people that are doing things for you may not be doing it for your good. It may be for your control. You've been lied to, guys. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. Check out US Gold Mining. Again, don't take my word for it. Just do your research. What I've learned is when I started telling you about gold, it was around $1,500 an ounce. And everybody's like, oh, it ain't going to go up. It's now at $4,000. It may go up to $5,000, $6,000. It may come back down to $3,500. But even though it's still way more than what it ever was. And right now it's the biggest asset in the world. Do your fact checking on it, but it's the truth. Real freedom does not come from crypto and government intervention in our life. Real freedom comes from independence. Let me know your thoughts on today's video. God bless.